All right.
Yeah, my husband, we're all shopping and it says, I don't like to shop anyway, but he says, so were you gonna go to eat? I'm like, I don't know, when we're looking around and stuff, and I'm like, oh, Buffalo Wild Wings, let's go there. They have a bourbon barbecue, sauce for their boneless wings, or their wings, and it is to die for, but it's for a limited time.
Oh.
This is really good though.
Once the clock
I just
starts,
texted
it don't stop.
No, you hear the action clack.
Oh, yeah.
I got 901. I got 901.
Oh, yeah. Right. We can start it.
Yep.
That'd be fun.
It is fun.
Anything back?
But it's fun.
Nothing yet, no.
Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call to order the Finance and Administration Committee. May we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Erickson?
Here.
Mr. Morse? Mr. Beggs?
Here.
Mr. Walker?
Here.
Mr. Hardy?
Here. I'd ask for a motion for approval of the meeting minutes from December 7th.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Support Walker.
Motion by Beggs, support by Walker. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, same. Motion carried. Are there any changes to the agenda? Any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll ask for approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Support Walker.
Motion by Beggs, support by Walker. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. Is there any public comment at this time? Hearing none, we'll move on. Mr. Mark Timmer, Manager, Director, Oceana County Road Commission, consideration to adopt resolution 2315, authorizing the Oceana County Board of Road Commission to issue notes.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mark.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here today. So this is something we've kind of worked on for a while, and we had Miller Canfield, they're a bond attorney, come and make a presentation to the board. And then I put a packet together proposing primary roads to pave to the board. And you have those in your regular packet. So it's about 25 miles of roads. And then this morning, I brought you a couple handouts. So the first one, I guess I'd like to look at, you see the map that has like the green on it. So those are the proposed roads that we like to bond and pave. And then if you see the second map that's got blue on it, that's pretty exciting to me. If you look at the green, you see the crowd looks at it. So the green connects all these routes that we've done in, say, the last maybe 8-9 years. It's gonna make a huge difference in our county. So we're gonna complete these routes by this extra paving. And the way we're proposing the bond, we would do a 10-year bond, and it'd be for $3.5 million. And so the county, because you oversee our finances, you have to make a resolution to approve this, but you don't have there's no financial stake in it. So if you look at the, and I guess going back to that little amortization sheet, our payments would be about $38,000 a month. And currently we're getting about $600,000 a month MTF interest or income. So, and that income is for road maintenance and paving, so it's an appropriate use of that money. But the other important thing is it's something very affordable for the road commission. We can pay this back. We're not going to, we're not sacrificing future work or daily operations to take this bond. It's something within our comfort level. And then the other thing I wanted to point out to you is if you look at your copy of the resolution, down at the bottom, it says the note shall not be a general obligation of the county, nor shall the county pledge its full faith and credit for paying of such notes. So basically, we're pledging the road commission, MTF, our income for repayment of this bond. And so to me, it's really exciting. The road commission, we've got our own chip seal equipment. Last year, we chip sealed around 80 miles of roads in the county. I'm planning on doing 100 miles this year. that's close to 20% of our paved roads. So if we can pave these are our worst county primary roads. Some of them, like a Paisley rating of 1 to 10, they'd be like a 1 or a 2, right? So it'll connect all these routes, but also give me the ability and our crews the ability to maintain our road system going forward. So, do you have any questions for me?
Mr. Walker?
Mark, the funding to pay for this, is any of that funding gonna come out of rural transportation money?
So it comes out of our, it wouldn't come out, we're not borrowing like our federal aid or state aid. It solely would be our MTF, the Michigan Transportation Fund. So our income is from gasoline tax, license, and registration. That's the money that we get for road maintenance, that would come out of that.
I know rural transportation funds, some of the local communities will apply for those, you know, and for 3 or 4 years, you know, to be on the list before you can do it. And that's the funds that I was referring to, you know, for major street, you know, improvements and stuff.
Yeah.
But the obligation to pay off these bonds is not going to come from that money, is it?
No, it's not. And I actually have that, like our RTF money, I've got that programmed for the next 3 years.
Okay.
So
The only reason I ask that is because if any of the local units of government for their streets that they have or roads that they have under Public Act 51, you know, they're not gonna be, cause that question's gonna come back to
yeah,
me.
no,
you
we're
know.
not short, nobody's getting shortchanged. This is solely the road commission's income that's paying for it.
It looks very progressive and very, and you know, the right thing to do to move forward. Not a lot different than what Shelby Township did.
Exactly right. And I guess that's the other thing is that, you know, we've had, probably 5 townships maybe now that have bonded to some extent. You know, Shelby, Hart, Elbridge, Weir come to mind, Colfax, they did a special assessment. And so I feel like the road commission and the board feels this is the right thing to do, that this is something responsible we can do to tell these townships we appreciate what they've put into roads, and then us doing our part to do the same thing.
Yes.
Mr. Timber, remind me, I think I heard this figure, how many miles of road, in a normal year do you budget to do this type of work?
You know, it's like out of our own income, it's only a couple miles is all we can afford. So what Mr. Walker mentioned, like the RTF, so we can do about 2.5 miles a year through the money that we get from federal aid and state aid, and we probably can do maybe a couple more miles out of our own budget, and that's it.
Yeah.
And the other has to come from township. So this is really big, you know, and I know there's, you know, we're paying back interest and paying back the bond attorney fees, but if you look at it, it's costing us $1 million to borrow $3.5 million, where say if you bought a house and you paid $400,000 for the house, so you borrowed $320, so you put 80 down, borrowed $320. If you took a 30-year note, you're gonna pay back over $960,000. You pay 3 times what you borrowed back. And then if you did a 15-year note, you're gonna pay like 660 something, so you'd pay over double what you borrowed. So with us borrowing $3.5 million, we're only gonna pay like 20% back. So I look at that, it's just a great opportunity to get all these roads done now, and then the motoring public can use all these routes, which a lot of them now, it really affects how people travel through the county. They're not gonna drive on some of these roads. Like the worst one, in my opinion, would be you take like 100th to York to, you know, 120th to Pierce. There's nothing left of it, you know, and we would be able to fix that road properly.
It's an eternal pothole.
Yeah, it is. And then, so that's a good point too, is that, so now on some of these roads, I can have crews there for like a whole day patching these roads, and it really doesn't make much of a difference. And then if it rains, we're back there again. Now we can take those people and grade gravels, chip seal, ditch, do other things to actually make us go forward and have better roads.
And I think in a previous conversation, you had mentioned there is some savings to have a large project, because you have paving crews here, you know, it's not gonna offset the interest by any means, but there would be some savings to have. You've got crews in the area that'll move from one project to the next, likely, and I think you mentioned this would all be done next summer, is the plan?
Yeah, we're gonna do the work this next summer, and then the way I'm gonna bid it out is I'm gonna ask for one price for the asphalt per ton, so that if the townships wanna piggyback on it for their projects, they can do that. They might wanna pave primary roads next to the ones we're doing, or they might wanna do their local roads, but then they'll have the option of getting that same price. And, so the other thing, like Tim mentioned, we're gonna have bid savings because we're doing all these roads at one cost per ton. We'll have bid savings there. And then even though we are paying interest, if you look at inflation would be over 10 years, if it's only a couple percent a year, which it's been higher than that the last few years, but you start looking at inflation and add that up going forward to 10 years, then it starts looking pretty attractive, really, to borrow the money and do it now. So, any other questions?
I'm just thrilled to see York Road on this map. That is,
So are we.
oh my God. Well, it's only fair for the people of Hesperia and people on the eastern side of our county to have a good, safe road alternative to 20. And yeah, York Road has been bad almost forever. But there's some nice places, when Ferry did 132nd, that was just a wonderful change. But yeah, 5 miles out there, that's a nice stretch of.
When if you look at that, if you look at this map, so, you're connecting that, the part that we've done on Polk and that, Hart's done on 100th, and we've done with Ferry on 132nd, and then, Shelby Township and the Road Commission have done projects on Shelby Road. Now we'd be able to take Shelby Road from Ferry to 132nd. So there's all these routes that now have gaps in them are gonna get interconnected in one summer. It'll be really big, I think.
Yeah, real big. And then 192 to the Fillmore Road, 192 end, that's much, much better. That was a mess all the way. Anytime I'd have to go to Hesperia, you've got a plan on that, and you're gonna hit potholes all the way.
Sure. I guess that was one of the things when I came here is looked at some projects, and you don't wanna leave any road section of island, like some of the roads are bad, so one section got done, but how do we do the other sections and make a whole route? So that's kind of been one of my focuses.
Looks like it was well thought out.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And I also must add that at the MTA meeting that was down in Greenwood, nothing but praise for this project.
Oh, good.
The townships are all really tickled.
Great, appreciate the feedback.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Irway, consideration to approve resolution 2314 for Council on Aging ballot language for the May election.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Joanne Irway. I'm with the Board of Directors for the Council on Aging. We've submitted to you our language for our ballot language for our millage renewal. Does anybody have any questions right off the bat for us? Because I could stand here and sing the praises all day. So I want to make sure that I don't take up a whole lot of your time today.
Mr. Walker.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I would just like to state the same thing that I have said as long as I have been on the County Board of Commissioners, that the Oceana County Council on the Aging does an excellent job in the Hart and Shelby, in the Hart and the Pentwater area, and it's a beautiful facility you have. But as Commissioner Mayette and I said, and Commissioner Colby and I said, I was on the board with them also, it seems as though the out-county areas in the southern and the eastern parts of the county pay the same tax millage for the Oceana County on the Aging, and the only thing that we get is occasional transportation funds, because it's so difficult. If the meals and everything that are up at the Council on the Aging building, it costs the people more to drive up there than it would, and it would be nice, and I had asked the Board of Directors before the new building was built for assurance that there would be some work done at least they would look at more opportunities for people in the out county areas. And at that time, I could not get that assurance, and I voted against the millage for that, because those are the people I represent. And now I'm just gonna say again, it would be nice if we had more programs for people in the out county areas.
I don't disagree with you. Because I'm new to the board and kind of new to this community, I've only been here about 4 or 5 years. I would really welcome a conversation with you regarding this as to what your ideas might be that your communities are needs that are not getting served.
And I would like to see proposals from the professionals at Oceana County on the Aging on what they can do for the out county area.
All right, I understand that, and
So,
it is something that
thank-
we'll have to take a look at. I know that our services are expanding all the time. I've been with the board for about 1.5 years, so it's been 1.5 years of learning experience for me. New to your community, only about 5 years ago we moved up here, and the amount of services that are coming from the Council on Aging, I come from another small county too. I was amazed, and I still am today, at the amount of services that are provided by this agency to your senior citizens, our senior citizens, myself included, and what they've been able to do to reach out to these outer areas of the county, not just Hart, not just Mountwater. I'm from Shelby, and between the things that you do see, the transportation service, obviously, everybody sees that. Our buses are everywhere. Last time I looked, our buses had run approximately 120,000 miles this year alone. We have those services available. The things that you don't see are some of our volunteer services, our volunteer drivers that take folks to their appointments, our housekeeping services that, and our senior care service that are huge. They're huge. And it takes a phone call from someone to have us take a look and find out, what can we do? What do we do to help you stay in your home? And it's not just Mountwater and Hart. It's all of the areas. We've got a board member from Walkerville that sits on our board, is excellent board member, talks to us a lot about the things that you're concerned about, reaching those outer areas. Our meals are a big deal. Our meals are where our doors open and folks come in, and that's where our staff get eyes on. They have eyes on our senior community. If it's something where someone's homebound and they don't want to get out, we have services to go to them. I would very much like to hear more about your ideas about what your folks need that we're not servicing, because we are growing and expanding all the time.
Thank you.
Satellites, could there be any satellite services?
Like a satellite office?
Well, I think of what the ladder does in Shelby, and another ladder maybe towards Hesperia, or, that seems to serve Shelby very, very well.
It does. It does. And everything's on the table all the time. We are planning, we are thinking, we are talking. We've met this specific goal that we've set for ourselves, and now where do we go? Now we've got to go further. We've got to reach out more. I found it really interesting. I attended the presentation from the housing study. That was amazing. That was a real eye-opener. That study opened up a lot of different questions, not just housing, but how many people are here that are going to need services in the future. And not just in our urban areas, but in our rural areas. That is a significant issue. So it's something that we are in tune to, we are looking at.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you very much for your time, I appreciate it.
Moving on, Administrative Yard, consideration to approve fiscal year 2024 Special Services Operating Assistance Program, for the Michigan Department of Transportation.
This was a, request that came from Council on Aging to, approve this, agreement with MDOT. It's some funding that they receive, and, they asked that I provide this to the board. This is something that they do each year, and, just asking for us to approve that again today.
Is this the one that I just had got and asked to do an electronic signature on?
Yes, you got it
So,
for that.
so
You
this-
haven't done it yet.
pardon me?
You haven't done it yet, I don't believe, or have you? You did do it. Well,
I
this is.
didn't know it was coming before the board.
Oh, yes, this is the one.
Hopefully the board will approve it.
Let's hope.
No, I got,
That's probably gonna happen.
Okay.
no, I got a request asking from the Council on the Aging if I had signed it and sent it in, there was
Oh.
there was a time deadline and
Well,
stuff
that's
on
the
that.
one.
We'll make sure it gets signed.
Support.
Again.
Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Absolutely. All right, under Sheriff Schiller, consideration of 800 megahertz radios, employed recruits, and Carpel interface module.
Well, good morning, everybody. There's a few things here. 800. The 800 megahertz radio purchase is a replacement. We have one in-house currently. It's quite old. It is not updatable and will not accept encryption if we move forward with that. Come 2024, it's end of life. There's really not much that can be done with it. So I was working through this last year, or excuse me, this year, and there's some costs in there for you on the second page of the proposal I gave to you. There's just a short little table there. We had some a donation from Electric Forest Festival and some surplus property that will cover the cost of that expense. So there's that particular packet, there was a whole bunch of information in there, and I hate to bore you with it, but it just gave you all the details in case anybody had any questions of what it is, and sometimes pictures are helpful for me. So I passed them along to you. Any questions about that, per se?
Mr. Hardy.
Ms. Walker?
Brian, I understand that the council that you have now, you know, is old, and I get that. I'm not so sure with the encryption that all of the local law enforcement agencies know where their funding's gonna come from, so they can purchase the encrypted radios yet.
Sure.
I think that's a problem, so maybe we're just a little bit ahead of the curve on purchasing these. But my other thought is on this, if you've been working on it for a length of time, which is probably true,
Sure.
it would be much simpler for us if this all came up at budget time. We just passed the budget and we're just going into it, and if it would have been included in the budget with this, you know, we,
Sure.
if things would come to us at that, but.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I understand. It's a good point, and they, the timeline of encryption and when that will occur, it's unknown. I mean, I think there are some plans out there, but I think.
So this council can run on the system that we're running on now.
Yeah.
And then it can be transferred over to the encryption. The encryption can be installed. It has the capability for that later.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Sir.
Question. Is this also available to hook to your voice over IP?
Yes. So that part of it is, I don't wanna get too nerdy, but, so in the office, we have the radio that sits in the front office control room, and then we have these telephone things from the early 90s in the other offices, and you can use the front office radio, you can use the base station radio in other locations using this telephone thing, looking thing. There's a picture of one in here. It probably doesn't explain it very well, but it extends the use of one radio into multiple locations. That's probably the best way to say it.
Yeah, that's what I wondered, when I was looking at the specs on it,
Yeah, it's a handy feature.
yeah. The other thing.
Looked like quite an auction sale.
There were,
Holy smokes.
there's always stuff, and it's good for us to get rid of stuff regularly. I think it's a better practice than to hold on to it for years and years and years. I think we're always trying to reduce the inventory in the property, so it's a good thing to do.
And then those handguns, they're clean when you buy them.
If they go through the auction, they are. There's absolutely no, any of the, if we're required to keep them, obviously they have to stay in the property room forever, for certain crimes. There used to be a day when we would send some of them to the state police to incinerate them, but anytime we can get rid of that, those guns, whether they're found recovered or unclaimed or whatever the case is, once it's been determined that it's clear, they sell them through their channels the way they're supposed to be done.
So we run all the numbers and.
Yeah, oh yes,
Yep.
yes.
Yep. A lot of nice weapons.
In other words, this is basically the funding for this would be paid for the auction, with the auction money and, donation from Electric Forest.
Yes, correct, yep.
Yes, Mr. Baker.
I think it just makes sense. I think you've got, it's really a budget neutral conversation. You've got revenue that's designed for this type of purchase, and you've got antiquated equipment that still works, but someday it might not, and there's no fix for that other than purchase. So
Yes.
good to see getting equipment that works with our current system, that will work with any upgrades in the future. And, I think it makes sense.
Yes, thank you.
Recruits.
So staffing, employed recruits, that's a buzzword in law enforcement right now. Hearing it in kind of all of our circles, as academies continue to go on. There's an academy starting in January, and we have 2 people that we currently have signed up. And the funding of employed recruits was a challenge a year ago, and that challenge was changed this last year because at one time the state police grant you were not able to use for wages and benefits, and it was going to be difficult for agencies our size to be able to kind of offset those wage costs, especially if we had an existing employee such as we have now with Deputy Schaefer from the jail. So we wanted to be able to send somebody to the academy, but we really needed to be able to pay them their pay rate while they're going to school, because they have a lifestyle, a family, and bills and everything else. We can't just pay them minimum wage, we can't expect somebody to go from their current wage to minimum wage while they're going to the academy for 5 months. So last year when that changed, and they said you can use that sum of money for either the cost of the academy and wages, or one or the other. You can use it collectively. So then I reached out to Michigan Works, and we've got a a great connection with Michigan Works, and I met with him last week, and our two guys met with Michigan Works as well. And Michigan Works, because law enforcement is one of the critical areas that they've identified, their funding is able to cover essentially the whole cost for the police academy itself. So when you put the two of them together, it does make a package that's palatable for smaller communities, or at least I believe it to be. On page, well, I broke down the costs as best as I can using those numbers. And it says on page 2, you see where in bold there's a net cost to the county of $51.81. And but then I think we need to take into account the fact that since the retirements of Detective Priest and Detective Farmer, they retired in September and October of this year. So from that time frame to the end of the year, plus the 15 weeks starting in January, there's quite a bit of salary that will be saved because we're not employing those people. Those positions are still allocated, and we're not using that for wages and benefits. So there's a cost of around $67,000, just using the numbers that I have, going about it from that perspective. So both of the young men that we have lined up are they seem very committed. One of them obviously is already working for us. The other young man worked for us last summer. He worked 2 jobs. Seems very committed. They've been jumping through a number of hoops to get ready and to be prepared for January. So we'd certainly like to give this a try. We've never done this. I know it was done way back in the day, but I've never seen sponsored or employed recruits since I've been in law enforcement. But it's definitely the way agencies are attracting people now. Everybody asks.
May I ask one first here? Is there some type of a contractual arrangement that will be employed for a period of time?
Yeah, so great question. That's another hot conversation right now. And I did some research on it. We were at a meeting at the college with all of the agencies in our area, if you will, a lot of the agencies that utilize West Shore for education or academies. And I asked that question to all the chiefs and sheriffs that were there, and there wasn't a lot of response. There was a gentleman from MPOLS there who was helpful and had some information. I reached out to the Sheriff's Association, and they sent me some really great feedback and information, of which I forwarded to Ms. Byard, and I believe that's been sent on to Mr. Nordford, our counsel, because I think we would really like to look at something like that to encourage retention.
Well, yeah, it's spending money that you want to make sure that
so
goes back. So some type of
it's a big concern, and a valid one, because when municipalities pay for someone to not only go to school, but they pay them while they're going to school, and then they leave a year later after you've put in FTO and put them in uniforms and all these things. It's just a huge expense to a community. So we would really we're interested to see what legal counsel would say and what that looks like.
So they're reviewing that. Right?
Yes.
Mr. Walker, thank you, Chief.
Mr. Hardy, that was one of the things I wanted to bring up. But the first thing, that those of us who are in our senior years, golden years, if I may say that.
Uh-huh.
Remember when the Department of State Police, when you went to their recruit school, you were paid minimum wage for all the time you were in there, and there was no overtime. And there were a lot of people that looked at it and had families
Yeah.
and had house payments who could not go into that department because of minimum wage. So it's good to hear that that has gone away. That was really tough. Under Sheriff Schiller, I think we don't have to go very far to look at somebody who went through a program like this, who has to pay back money to his host agency when he went through a program like this. So it's been done, you know, and I was just gonna ask the question Mr. Hardy asked too, that, you know, there's some type of contractual agreement, but this whole program, I wanna commend you and commend the department, the sheriff and the department, because this is just exactly what this board alluded to at several meetings when we talked about hiring people that are local people who have a background and are familiar with Oceana County. This is the exact type of program that I personally am very happy to see come here, because I'm glad that the work was done to bring it before us.
Thank you.
It's what we need.
Got it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I would just echo, I think it's forward thinking, you know, it is, more commonplace now than it ever has been, for a good reason, because, we need police officers, and, it's a pretty competitive market. I would like to see some sort of contract, with a 2 or 3 year commitment with a payback if that doesn't, you know, something to encourage that retention. But I think the bigger retention is the candidate, and if they're already a local, employed with us, or semi-local, I think that's the key. We already know if we hire somebody from out of town, they don't have a place to live, and that's a problem that you can't solve.
Right.
And we can't solve, on our own, but we can encourage growth. So there's so I would certainly be in favor of, at the very least, a pilot program to try this out. I think the 2 candidates in mind are prime candidates to test the waters and just see where it goes. So.
Yes. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Real quick on, just kind of on the heels of that, because Deputy Schaefer will be coming out of the jail, we've posted for that position, and we've been talking with some people that have been interested, trying to fill that vacancy as soon as we can. Mr. Walker alluded to that a few meetings ago, and so we took that to heart and tried to get ahead of the curve a little bit to try and not let that position linger until after he's gone. So just so you kind of know that we're trying to fill all the voids at the same time. So.
Okay, the Carpel interface model.
So this is kind of fresh to all of us. Mr. Bison and his assistant are here, and I'm sure Heather can answer probably any questions about the new record system that they went with. So this record system that the prosecutor's office has migrated to was obviously was needed on their end. They were using probably a system much like we were back in the day, and it just comes a time when you have to migrate to something different. And so they've done that, and they went live with their system. And the current records management system that we use and a number of the other local agencies use is called the Statewide Records Management System. It has a number of different names. They call it that, they call it SRMS, they call it Motorola Premier One. All that to say, it's a top shelf records management system that is owned by the state of Michigan, that we pay per user or, for the jail's sake, per bed. And so it's a prorated amount based on your size and capacity. like I said, a number of the local agencies use it because it's a statewide system, and because the system that the prosecuting attorney's office chose to go with is a one that's widely used amongst prosecutors' offices. They've already built a link between the two. I don't think we knew this then, but the link on our end is already done, it's free. But the link on their end for us to connect together is not free. And it would make the workload and efficiency of our office, certainly, hopefully their office as well, significantly better if we had this direct link between the two systems. So that's kind of what I'm asking for today. I had a hard time writing this because sometimes I get off into the weeds of technology and I have to rein myself back in. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I hope I tried to explain it as best I could as to what we're trying to accomplish. And if I can't answer it, I'm sure Mr. Bison or Heather can answer as well, or if they'd like to.
If I may, does this reduce the handling?
So it, on our end, significantly. So currently, as it stands, when a report is going to be, or when a warrant's going to be requested, or a report goes to the prosecuting attorney's office, Lieutenant Hasty, physically prints the report. He puts a packet together, if you will, of all the information for that particular case that goes to the prosecutor's office, and he hand delivers it. Granted, it's one building away and it's covered, so we don't even get wet. This system, or this link would not require those steps within our system, but within our record system, there's an option to export this. He'll have the opportunity to check what attachments go with it, and then it gets done, and it winds up inside their system. So it really does cut down on our workload. We don't know this, but we're hoping that it significantly helps their workload as well. But Mr. Bison has said this before. We don't know what that looks like because we've never done it before.
So does the information that you transfer by your packet then have to be input?
The way it works is they have their system, we have our system. When they push it to ours, it goes to a media meld in the middle, and what would need to be built is the gateway into our system. Whatever is in their system would then populate in our system.
So are those packets manually entered now then, at your office? Is that,
You mean when the lieutenant brings them down?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that is how it is
how
brought,
does it get in your system?
if that is how it is brought over, that is what would happen.
Okay.
We also, because Under Sheriff Schiller correctly states that many local agencies are using SRMS. The state police don't, and DNR are getting away from SRMS. So we have an external portal that requires some data entry either by us or the officer submitting it remotely. If we have this and it works, their information would populate a considerable portion of our system as far as witnesses predominantly, but it could also, if say tickets, and this is what we would insist upon if we have this, if tickets and photographs are available, some videos, those would come over.
Okay. How is your new system working?
Well, we went live last week. We were trained on it last week. We trained some officers on it on Friday. It appears to be going very well. We have definitely had some learning opportunities. We are still learning how to use it to the best of its capabilities, and there are definitely some things that we're still figuring out with it. It is brand new. There's a lot we don't know.
Yes,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
Just a couple things here. Again, I'm gonna say the same thing as I said on the first thing. We haven't even started our new budget yet. And we're coming in and asking for $10,000 for this link and $2,000 a year for maintenance on it. That's the type of thing that, to be financially solvent and to keep things going, we need to include in the budget and not come in before we even start the budget. Do you have the money someplace in your budget to pay for this, or?
I do not.
Well, then I think that answers the question for me. And not only that, I really think that it would be worthwhile for the prosecutor's office to be able to run on the system and get it up to date, get all the bugs worked out and everything with the local law enforcement agencies before we're adding another layer on it. Am I wrong with that, Joe, or what's your feelings?
We did not ask for the module upfront for that reason. We wanted to see what it did first.
I just think there's some things that have to be worked out. Let's work those things out before we go someplace else. And looking at the total amount of the budget for corrections in the sheriff's department, I'm surprised that there's not $10,000 someplace in there to cover it. So.
Mr. Bates.
One question and then a couple comments. So, because MSP does not use whatever, this other portal, the $5,000 upfront, 1,000, that has to stay in place.
We need that.
So this isn't, this other module won't replace.
It cannot. Yeah, it can't.
Because MSP's
For
not gonna do
the in-it use there's a number of other features and benefits truly to the external.
So one thing, for example, if at some point the board as a whole approves this module, we are optimistic that there may be some benefits to it. With the existing module, that is a need. One of the things that it could, I mean, I'm sure they know what they're saying when it'll save time on their end. It may save time on our end. But one thing it can't do is they would not be able to submit supplements on this link. Supplements will have to go through the portal because that will allow us to add to the case. If it gets pushed through the SRMS link, it'll create a whole new case, which will be more work. Because then my staff's going to be merging those two things, and that's going to be a whole lot more. So there are two different things, not to be confused as one or the other, and we need the external portal that we have.
And then as far as timing and budget, if I understand correctly, this is a new information. This is something that wasn't known in October when we started on the budget. This was figured out 2 or 3 weeks ago that this option was available, but not something we purchased.
Correct.
So, on that same line of thinking, so I'm a big proponent of technology. Anytime we can use technology to our advantage to reduce the man hours, because I would much rather have officers doing road work, officers' jobs, administration doing all the other things they need to do rather than double entering data. In my own industry, I use technology to ensure that my technicians are turning wrenches and not shuffling papers, because that's where the money hits the road. So yes, $10,000 plus an additional $2,000 a month or a year. I suspect if we save even 15, 20 minutes per case that are man hours saved to have people doing the job that they need to do rather than shuffling paperwork that could be automated, we're going to cover that cost. Cause it doesn't take too long at road patrol, roughly what, $27 an hour, to make up $2,000 a year, and cover a $10,000 upfront cost. It doesn't take very long at all, for however many hundreds, thousands of reports are shuffled every year. And to say, you know, to say, well, let's run what we have for now, I'm usually not a big fan of that personally, just because I wanna use this new technology, this new program to the fullest of its ability. I wanna learn it all at once. I wanna learn a system, and I don't wanna keep stair stepping and adding to it. The stair steps and the adding are learning its how to use its features, full features up front. So I think for me, this again is a no-brainer, because I think it's going to just I don't know all the nitty-gritty details, with the dollar amount versus the man hours saved wins it for me. And then human error. The more times data's handled, the more times there's opportunity for error.
So that's a huge part of it. So for me, and just looking at it from an agency perspective, data entry is a struggle, and all of us are doing it in some way, shape, or form. But when you start duplicating it and triplicating it, it becomes a bit laborsome, and it just doesn't seem to make sense, right? So from an efficiency perspective, this is huge, at least for our office. If we don't have this ability, this is going to significantly change the road patrol lieutenant's time. It's gonna have a huge effect on it.
Mr. Morris.
Yeah.
No, I'm good.
Okay, first of all, I apologize, I got a little catch up here.
Yeah, you're good.
I take full responsibility for knowing the time of the start of the meeting. But from what I'm gathering here and from what I read, so this module, what essentially how it's done right now, correct me if I'm wrong, is our deputies and sergeants and lieutenants, they're inputting information into a certain system that goes over to the PA's office, or the PA's office, and then they have to input it into their system, the same exact information.
Yeah, essentially, yep.
Right now, that's how it's happening right now.
Yeah, it comes over by paper currently, and somebody in their office manually inputs it.
Okay, all right. That's what I needed to know. And this would stop that. This would, the sergeant, the lieutenant, the road deputy, it would go directly into their system, and then they wouldn't have to double type it, you double input it. Is that?
So we still have to go in there, we have to import it, we have to go through and double check, we have to match up our witnesses and stuff. So it does save time on that, but there's still steps we have to take to get it in our system.
Okay.
So
it's not automatically like synced or linked where.
No, we go and we double check everything. So we have to go in and make sure it's the defendant that matches up, then we take our witnesses. It would save us time because we're not hand entering all those witnesses in there. But we still have to go in, and so it's not like an to call it a truly automatic, it's, you still need human eyes on it to make sure that what's pulling in is accurate and correct.
Okay.
Otherwise, you've got to update it, correct it, if it's not, but it will save time.
Mr. Garrett, prosecutor's original purchase of that software, was that ARPA funds? Do you remember?
Yes.
That was ARPA funds?
Yeah.
This could go under ARPA funds?
If that's what we're choosing, yes.
I couldn't remember, I know we did it quite a while ago, and I thought that was funded too. Okay.
Mr. Hardy, I'd just like to say again, this was approved over 6 months ago for the prosecuting attorney's office. This isn't a brand new thing that just came up within the last 30 days. My concern is the same as I said, and I'll be very pointed about it. The Sheriff's Department is a $5.4 million budget, and if they can't find $10,000 to cover the cost of this, something's wrong.
Well.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Could I
Oh, sure, I'm sorry.
Before,
Sir,
under sheriff, please, I went to Newfield Tuesday night, and how's it going over there with our road patrol, this side of division?
in Hesperia, I know there's been guys over there quite a bit in the last few weeks. Even yesterday, I think there was somebody over there, middle afternoon or so. Between us and, so we kind of share it with Newaygo County. Newaygo County has a deputy who's been spending a significant amount of time in covering the village of Hesperia. He's nearing the end of his career, so he's just been getting a lot of overtime, if you will, over there. So between us and Newaygo County, we share it on a week on, week off basis. Week on, week off. There's a calendar online that we share with Newaygo. So between the two agencies, guys are allowed to go in and see if shifts are covered or if they're not covered, and pick them up at will. If they'd like.
I think Mike Farber would like a call.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Good to know.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ms. Biard, consideration, to enter into an agreement for auditing services.
So, as I previously stated, I had put out an RFP for our auditing services because we had received, notification that our, rates were going up with our current auditor. So we received those bids back. Amy and I went through those. They came in, under sealed bid. And as you can see from the tabulation, two of them were quite close. The third one, not so much. Gaybridge is currently the one that we have for an auditing service right now. And their rates came in pretty close to what Manor Costerison came in at. However, my concern with Manor is that the medical care facility audit, because that's included in our RFP, is increasing, it's doubling, compared to what Gaybridge has. So, it would be my suggestion, my recommendation to you, to stay with Gaybridge. Although the amount for Manor is a bit lower for the first year, it is higher than Gaybridge for the second year, and it will keep the medical care facility at a lower rate. I did have a conversation with our treasurer as well to see what her thought was with regards to the auditing service, and we just came up with some concerns of some things that we'd like to talk over with Gaybridge if they are selected as the auditing firm for the county.
How long has Gaybridge been doing it?
I don't know.
For as long as I've been here.
Yeah. So they're familiar.
They do 911 also, don't they?
Well, and that's another thing when you're moving from a firm that you've been with for quite some time. They know the county. It's going to be an adjustment if you're switching auditing firms. So.
Yeah.
Craig, may I ask?
Please, sorry.
When we decided to do proposals, or take proposals on our auditing,
Mm-hmm.
How did we go about that? Was it put out publicly so
Yes.
anybody could find it and anybody could bid on it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was posted.
It was posted,
Yeah.
so.
It was.
It's not one of those things that we just went to these three
No.
firms and
No.
and told them we were doing it, so everybody had the opportunity to see it publicly.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, Mr.
And do we, have any complaints about Gaybridge? We satisfied with their work?
We're satisfied with their work. It was just we had some hiccups in the process. last year.
Okay, which are correctable, very correctable?
I do believe so, yes, and I'm gonna have a discussion with Joel from the auditing firm, if Cambridge is the one that we stay with.
And what I can see is, you know, in regards to the medical care facility, to double that fee, you know, our medical care has been at a negative cash flow now for over 2 years, and, you know, if we can get it done for half price, staying where we are, you know, I'm all for saving a few dollars on audits.
Exactly.
Yes.
I was just gonna kinda echo, I mean, the Gaybridge is the low bid, total package. And so, but there's also value, if the difference is negligible and you're satisfied with the current provider, to stay with the system you know and familiarity, so,
Yeah.
if, as long as, the treasurer and the administration, think these issues, concerns with Gaybridge are correctable, then this seems like the best way to go.
And after we do an audit, it's submitted to the State Department of Treasury, and they've never kicked one back from Cambridge, have they?
Nope, not that I'm aware of.
So they oversee it in the bottom line anyway, so if there was a big problem with this firm, I'm sure the Department of Treasury would be picking through the audits very, very closely.
So is this for a 3-year contract then?
Yes.
And that was on part of the public knowledge thing then. So it looks like the increases for 24 and 25 are pretty minor.
Mm-hmm. Yes, correct.
Any other questions, comments? All right, moving on. Administrative Briard, again, consideration for reappointment of John Wines, John Wilson, and Joel Michelson to Parks and Recreation Committee.
I don't know if Gary wants to speak to this at all, but 3 members of the Parks and Rec Commission would like to be reappointed, and that's what this is, a reappointment for these 3 individuals.
Morning, thank you.
Good morning, Gary.
Yes, it's that time of the year where we go for reappointments, and John Wines has been the treasurer of our commission for the last 3 years. And John Wilson has been a really great addition for us. He's been writing a lot of grants, not only for parks, but he also works very closely with the trail group from from Pentwater to Hart. And Joel, I can't say too much about Joel. He's been here for 35 years. He's kind of the statue of the whole association, or the whole group. But if you want something to get done, Joel's the guy. There's no doubt about it. He's a stalwart when it comes to the operation that we have. And I would strongly recommend all 3 of these gentlemen to be reappointed. Thank you.
Any comments, questions? Moving on again,
Mr. Hardy,
yes.
when we have an arm of county government that works as well and gets as much done as what Parks and Recreation does, I don't see any reason to change it whatsoever.
No, not if
They're an excellent board, and with Mr. Keene's leadership, the county all benefits by it.
Okay, moving on, Administrative Briard, consideration for the reappointment of Paul Cutter, Gary McKean, and Al Bloom to the Planning Commission.
Just like the Parks and Rec, this is the Planning Commission and 3 members of the board that are asking for reappointment. And that's what this is for.
I can speak to that too. We're fortunate to have Phil Morris on our commission as well. We're actually in the process now of our 5-year master plan. We're getting very close to, I think it's been submitted. I think you might have it on your desk actually. So we've been going through a lot of due diligence with reference to the county, working with the road commission, incorporating some of the road commission future things that Mark Timmer came to us with, and what the possibility could be in the future with our 5-year plan. And the opportunity for Paul Cutter, of course, comes from Hart. He actually lives out in Elbridge, but he's a wastewater plant operator and has a lot of intuition as to what the facilities need and what the county needs as far as water works going forward. And Al Bloom, was at the time he first came on our commission, was actually on the road commission, but he now continues to serve on the commission. Gary McKean, how can I say?
We know.
What a
That guy.
Yeah, well, the price is cheap.
The return is great though.
Yeah. Good value.
Sure.
Mr. Hardy, if I could
Yes.
add to that, since I am on the planning commission, I've rubbed shoulders with all three of those gentlemen for, 3 years now. And, I echo what, Mr. McKean said, especially about, you know, Paul Cutter and Mr. Bloom. Now, like you said, Mr. McKean, he's actually extra special, especially talented, on our board. I mean, really, he, on the commission, as you guys know, I know it's not a question mark whether or not you're gonna reappoint him, of course, but, I just really, want to speak highly of Gary and his leadership there, even with, you know, helping our meeting, the flow of it. That I'm not using the right word, but, you know, making sure we're on point as far as, you know, staying on the agenda and that sort of thing. And he's doing it. He just does a great job with that. But Paul is wonderful too, and Al as well. So yeah, I fully support all three of those recommissions.
Thank you. Anyone else? Administrator Biard, consideration for budget adjustment 11-2023 for year end.
Another budget adjustment. You asked that I incorporate another column in there so that you are able to tell what departments those are coming from.
Thank you.
So that was done.
It made it a lot,
Helps.
it helps looking down through
Okay.
it, yeah,
Good.
thank you.
Well, and I can tell you that after I got it done, I was informed by one of my employees in the office that there's a much easier way to incorporate that into there and have it auto-populate. So she's gonna help me with that next time. So, does anybody have any questions on those? There's just adjustments throughout the budget that we're, trying to clean things up before year end, and, I'll even be taking my laptop home, over the holiday to make sure that, I'm keeping on top of those to make sure there's no more adjustments before, we hit 12/31, so. Right?
I would again, if I know it's more work, but I would love to know the overall for each fund as well. Like what the overall revenue budget was gonna be for interfund transfers, certified copies, you know, like what was our expected budget, and then what the overage is, just so I can compare it. Cause these are additional, right? On top of what we budgeted?
Yes.
That would be helpful for me, as far as that goes.
So,
Like, for example,
if I understand what you're saying, would it be helpful if maybe I printed, those budgets off and highlighted those in those budgets, or you wanna add it to this worksheet?
well, if you'd landscape this thing right here, instead of portrait, landscape it, I think you could fit more columns in, and then actually, then like property, current real property, you know, what do we budget? And that's $750,000 more than what we budgeted. That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great news. I just,
Right.
you know, like to know.
Want another differential?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Alright.
But, and it would be great if it was right on this very document as well, you know, not so I, you know, don't have to flip
Yeah.
back and forth, so I can just go look in one spot.
Okay.
I mean, if I'm the only one that feels that way, don't, you
No,
know.
I think that's great. If it's easily added, which just kind of be another column.
Should we do that?
When we look at overtime budget, and that, I think we have to keep in mind that the sheriff's department has had contractual agreements with different units of government that they're being reimbursed for, you know, with that. So that overtime budget isn't something that's totally over and above what their budget was set at, because that, those officers are being paid that overtime to cover those contractual services, and it's being reimbursed. So we can't look at that number just on the face of it and say that there's a lot of overtime there. It's not. something that, it's just the way it shows up on the spreadsheet.
Well, and one other thing I wanna point out, there's, wages in there, one of the sheriff lines, one of their wages, it looks like it's going to go over. And that is at no fault of the sheriff's department, but rather we had a couple people retire and we had to do a large payout to them, and that comes out of that line item, so it kinda skews those numbers a little bit.
It's done that,
Yeah.
thank you for pointing it out, but
Yeah,
it's done that for every department there is. When you have an employee who's been here 25 years and they have all of that, that built up, of retirement stuff, it's just the way it is.
Alright, moving on, consideration of resolution 2316, adopting the meeting schedule for 2024, that was in your packet.
Yes, it was.
Any questions or comments?
Of course, that is, taking into consideration, we have, some special meeting dates with regards to equalization. We only have one meeting a month in November. I don't know if there's any changes to those at all.
And those are the meeting dates that prior to them, the administrator is gonna remind us a month or so ahead of time.
Yes, I will do that.
If there's a change from the.
I will do that. And I will also point out when I'm sending out the packets, whether we're meeting at 9 or 10 o'clock, just to put that
It
out
was
there.
highlighted on my packet.
So everybody.
Mine too.
Well,
I take responsibility.
That doesn't mean you're not gonna give me a vote.
We just gotta make sure your plane lands on time.
I'm just glad to see the November meeting is the 14th. So
Yeah.
got more
Yeah, I'm
things to
sure
do
you're
after that.
excited about that.
I'm not passing the blame on you though, this is on me, I'm not the one that.
Just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah.
Continuing on, Ms. Biard, consideration of medical examiner contract for a 4-year term, 2023-2024.
So the medical examiner contract is up, it is time to renew. We are very happy with, the current contract we're in. We have recently reappointed the medical examiner, so, I would ask that you, approve the contract to coincide with that reappointment.
Oh, they have, West Michigan medical examiners had 13 counties, I think they've added some in there, haven't they? So there are at least 13 counties that they call, and you certainly can't do it yourself.
No.
For what they do, and the expertise that they bring
Yeah.
to the investigations. May I ask the sheriff?
Sure.
It's amazing, it is. It's, the service that we get from them is everything we need and more. It's fantastic.
So if I, just cause we have a little extra time. Sure. Is, so Mr. Wagner, Dr. Wagner, he works for this group?
He owns it.
He owns it, okay, and then he has other doctors that, or medical examiners that he employs?
They do not have to be doctors. He
Okay.
oversees it. He has to, correct me if I'm wrong here, Ryan. He oversees it. He has to certify, if I may use that term, all of the medical examinations that they do.
Okay.
But
The investigators.
the people that do it, a lot of them work in the first responder or the medical care
Yeah.
field.
So we pay then Mid-Michigan Medical Examiner Group, and then he,
Right.
that's the only bill we pay is
Yeah,
to them.
and they
Not-
they are contractual employees of his.
Yeah, okay. Thanks.
All right, Ms. Biard, administrator's review of selected claims for payment, and while we're there, administrator's report.
So the claims have been submitted, for you to review. Any questions on those at all? Okay, administrator's report, I didn't have anything in the packet, just simply because you saw how long that budget adjustment was. It took me a little while, on top of the packet, and it seemed like things kept coming in, so it was kind of a rough week, but, I did want to say that I had a meeting with MMRMA, our liability insurance, and they stopped by and, for our annual review, to provide us with our documentation. They said that they don't know what Oceana County's doing, but whatever it is, we're doing it right. Because, the renewals with, many of the other counties that they met with were at a 6.7 to 7% increase in their premiums, and our increase went up 1.5.
Good to hear.
Yes, it is very good to hear. And on top of that, our asset distribution for last year was 52,841. For 2024, we will be receiving 124,741. So that went up over double. So exciting stuff. Good to hear.
Tracy, under the administrator's report, you just wanna, we've got time here, you just wanna quickly tell the board members what you found on the price of the scale with a different vendor?
Yep, that was the next thing I was gonna talk about.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So the board had asked me to, look around and see if we couldn't get another bid for the transfer station scale. I found another company, it's out of Plainwell, and I just got the quote this morning, and it's for a larger scale than the previous one that I discussed with you, and the price came in at roughly $65,000.
Wow, 35% less.
Wow.
Yes.
than the
So
last one.
he did, however, say that that cost will probably go up a little bit because the brand has not. They said that their pricing hasn't been released for 2024 yet. That will probably go up a little bit, but wanted to let you know that we do have a quite a better price.
It's a lot better.
Yeah.
Especially for a bigger scale.
Yeah. It's a 70 by 11 rather than a 50 by 11. Capacity is 200,000 pounds.
Hopefully, we won't have any trucks come in off the highway that are over 200,000 pounds.
No.
Let's hope not.
Unless they're running on county roads, Mark.
Yeah.
And the sheriff will call if you do.
And last, I just wanted to say, Martha Mayat stopped by the office yesterday and asked me to tell you all hi and hope that everything was going well.
All right, department head reports. Mr. McKee.
Morning again. Well, yesterday actually was a really great day for county parks. We have the final landowner agreement now for the Marshfield Dam project. I submitted it to the county administrator and she has signed off on it. So all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed. As far as we're concerned, the money's all there, everything, the contracts are all considered. They're all signed by the contractors. The road commission has approved their part of the work. We're good to go. April the 15th, here we are.
Fantastic.
That's great. So we get that started. Also tonight at about 4:30 to 5 o'clock out at Gales Pond, we'll be working with the Conservation District, and today we'll be celebrating the winter solstice, December 21st. And we have already 70 people that have signed up, and it's going to be a candlelit walk through the woods right at dusk or at sunset. So if you're available, come out. We'd love to have you. And the opportunities in parks continue. We get a lot of reach outs for many people in the community to volunteer with our system and to actually grow some of our other projects. Conservation District has really stepped up and they've really made it part of their 5-year plan to be more and more with the county parks in many different forms and fashions. And I want to lift up Paul Erickson. Paul's been a really great addition to our board for the last 3 years. It's been 3 years.
Yeah.
I didn't have gray hair then.
Join the club.
But Paul has a great view of the history of the county, opportunities that we maybe overlook. He brings to our attention. So having the 10 people on our commission currently is really a great opportunity to really expand and do different things and look at opportunities. The word opportunity way too often, but a lot of the opportunities we have we're cashing in on, so that's the important thing. So wish you all a happy holiday, and thank you for your support this last year, and look forward to a great year in '24.
And I'd like to add, thank you, Gary, very much. You know, the work that's going on at Gales Pond with the new boardwalk around the east side, and it's a beautiful place, and the number of plants that have been identified at that parcel, along with Doolittle Park and the new pavilion and the conservation and the knee-high naturalists, and Gales Pond's a great little place to go. And I wished I had the time tonight to take that walk, but 70 people, I went last year, and to see it with the Owl Prowl, and it's really neat to see that many people come to a county park at one time, and it's a gem. And if no one knew that, Gales Pond is in the exact center of Oceana County. That's why we call it Oceana Center, and it's a gorgeous site of a historic sawmill, you know, that was there 140 years ago. So if you've got anything on your schedule tonight, try and put that on, but thank you, Gary, very much.
Yeah, our botanist from Ludington has found 240 different plant species in 17 acres in a 17-acre park. And many are recorded in the Michigan Vivarium. There's 5 or 6 plants that have not found anywhere else in the city that are actually there. Don't know how they got there, but we're glad they're there.
Thank you, sir. All right, moving on. Is there any public comment at this time for Finance and Administration Committee?
I'm Stephanie Moore, the Executive Director of Council on Aging, and I just wanted to take a moment to give a few examples of the impact that we make as Council on Aging in our community, which is Oceana County as a whole. I know Mr. Walker had mentioned our transportation services, and those are not limited to just bringing people to our physical building. Those are being utilized to bring people to out-of-county appointments for dialysis, chemo when we have the availability to do so, you know, other medical appointments outside of the county, including all the way down to maybe Ann Arbor if that's a need, and we have again a volunteer driver available to do so. It's bringing people to the bank, bringing them to doctor's appointments, to the grocery, to the ladder, to visit friends and family. So it doesn't have to be something that the Council on Aging is necessarily sponsoring. It's a need that we're providing to the community to bring them wherever they need to go within our hours of operation and our availability to do so. Some of the hidden services that we have that people might not be aware of, because what they see are again the buses, maybe some of the, you know, the meals, the things that we have going on inside a physical space. But we're also providing services all over the county. We have in-home services that are being administered right now to down in kind of that tri-corner where Muskegon, Newaygo, and Oceana County meet. We have people that are in actually a Montague address, but still in Oceana County, that utilize the transportation, that drive themselves up, that receive services from us. So again, it doesn't just mean that they're coming to our physical building. And you know, the socialization, the impact we're doing, we have volunteers that do homebound picnics that helps us keep eyes on people that maybe receive minimal services or we know are in need of having that, but they're homebound and they don't necessarily have our services right now. Maybe they're getting it from a family or another agency, but it also helps us, again, keep our eyes on people, bring a meal to them, share a meal with them, see how things are going, what ways we might be able to help, but also provide some socialization. A couple of examples in our partnership with the Sheriff's Department, there's just in the last 18 months, probably, we've called them because our staff has gone out, whether it be our bus driver or one of our in-home service professionals, to go in to provide a service and somebody didn't answer the door. And so we call on Sheriff Mast, and he kindly goes out or sends someone out to do a well check, and in both of those cases, that has saved their life. And so those types of things are what is the most vital. You know, we're gonna bring people again to wherever they wanna go. We of course have social programs and services we provide because those are important too. It doesn't matter, for some people, the transportation might be the most important. For some, it's having a meal. For some, it's being able to take a day trip because they're a caregiver and they get some respite, and that's a way for them to get out. We also have our adult day service program, our Friend's House. They do an amazing job, and if you've ever been a caregiver, you know the impact that having those few hours of respite can give to you, and just having that break makes you a better caregiver. And it's good for the client as well to have an activity of their own, some time of their own, some things that they can do that is their own when they're so reliant on other people. We also provide MAP, so Medicare, Medicaid Assistance Program. We have open enrollment. We have 1 staff member and 2 volunteers that come in, so if anybody needs to change their insurances, any time of the year, if you are enrolling in Medicare, we have somebody available to help do that. So again, those are just a couple of the things that we do. We just had a client sadly pass away a few weeks ago, and the family shared that the Council on Aging is the only reason that they were able to remain in their home, and she refused to let her family move home from out of state, which would have meant giving up their career, giving up their life to come and care for her. She said, you can come visit, but you're not gonna take care of me. And so having us be able to go into the home made enough of an impact that she was able to remain independent in her home until the end of her life. So I just wanted to share those things with you. It's so much more than just our physical space. Yes, we have a beautiful building. We're grateful to be where we're at. It just by happenstance worked out physically, that's where it was. But through the years, we've seen other sites kind of come and go meal sites. That was a big thing in my 23 years with the agency when I first came on. And we've seen that just kind of dwindle because we see the impact. We're doing between 1,000 and 1,200 meals a month just in our one space. And I can't say that the impact we'd still be able to really do that, having a space and the extra expense and the quality to be able to provide those. So bringing people together and expanding those social circles has been huge. We have people, again, that regularly come from the southern end of the county. They're coming from Tumwater, they're coming from Hesperia, which is really great to see. And now we're kind of their place where they go to meet for lunch or come for an activity. We have people that come from Muskegon because they don't have what we're able to provide. We don't have that in Muskegon County at our level. And so we really have become an example for other agencies around the state. They're constantly calling us, how are you providing the services you're providing and doing all the things you're doing with the resources you have. So I'm very proud of what we do. I know there's always ways that we can expand, we can grow. There's ever-changing, needs that need to be met, and it's really multi-generational. I'm now into my 4th as a Gen Xer. I'm heading into my 4th generation of people served, and so I'm excited to see where we're going because Oceana County should be very proud of these services. I mean, I know I speak because I'm there, very passionate about it, but that we're able to provide what we have in a rural community like ours. So I wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Any other public comment at this time?
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
We have 2 people that are here for our service, for 10-year service awards from the county. Would there be any objection from the county members, the board members, that we present those at this time? And so if they have to slip out for the afternoon or are not here in the afternoon?
I'm fine with that, yeah.
Do you have any objection
to
to
the
that?
business to attend to, so.
Good with that?
Everybody's here for it.
Yeah.
All
One, and then we can do the one this afternoon if nobody has any objections.
No.
So, thank you. The first one is for Alan Whitcamp. Alan, I'm gonna have to ask you not to shake too hard.
Okay.
I had the misfortune of falling and breaking my wrist in 3 places, and they can't do surgery for another month. Yeah. Alan has been with the Oceana County Sheriff's Department for 20 years, which says a lot in and of itself. Alan, this is Alan Whitman, graduated him for many years of public service to the people of Oceana County. Alan.
Okay.
There's a typo on there. Not an easy job, Alan. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you for what you've done, not only for the general population, but for all of the law enforcement people that come and see you, and for all of the members of your department. Thank you. The other one that we have has to be for one of the most senior members of Oceana County. And it gives me great pleasure to say that this is gonna honor him halfway through his tenure. Craig, not too hard, okay?
Right on, right on.
Thank you, Craig. Sheriff Craig Mass for, do I dare say this? You know, it's gonna tell a secret here.
Go ahead. Yep,
For
give it all.
30 years of service.
I started when I was 12.
And yours has done wrong. Yours is gonna have to read that too, so you could say you started it.
Okay.
You'd be in line. Sheriff, not only as a road patrol officer, not only as a deputy, not only for all of those scenes that we don't wanna think about that you've done, but for your leadership at the sheriff's department and for the betterment of everybody in Oceana County. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Hey, congratulations. Having no further business for the Finance and Administration Committee, we will adjourn.
Pronoun deal again, don't
The
we?
regular meeting will start at, regular, commission meeting will start at 11:30.
All right.
See, Phil, we could've made it 10.
Well, not to excuse, but I did look at that and think, oh, yeah, 10 o'clock, some, you know, the amount of business